The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched endlessly in all directions. Massive columns of gleaming metal rose from the floor to support a ceiling that seemed to touch the stars themselves. Representatives from dozens of alien civilizations filled the chamber, their forms as diverse as the worlds they came from. Some floated in energy fields, others slithered across the polished floor, and a few existed as pure thought given temporary shape. At the center of it all stood a simple podium where Ambassador Deho waited. The human looked small and fragile. Compared to the beings around him, his dark hair was neatly combed, his diplomatic uniform pressed and clean. Behind him stood Sunmi, her tablet glowing softly as she monitored communications from Earth. Both humans appeared calm, but anyone watching closely might have noticed the slight tension in their shoulders. The council was dominated by three great powers. The Vorthok Empire controlled the eastern spiral arm of the galaxy with their massive reptilian fleet. Their representative, a creature the size of a small building, sat on a throne of polished bone. Its scales reflected the chamber's lights, like mirrors, and its eyes held the cold intelligence of a born predator. The Nexari Collective occupied the galactic core, their crystalline forms pulsing with internal light. Their representative appeared as a floating geometric pattern that hurt to look at directly. When it spoke, its voice came from everywhere and nowhere at once, a sound like wind chimes in a storm. The third power was the Phantom Syndicate, beings of pure energy who had transcended physical form millennia ago. Their representative flickered between dimensions, sometimes solid, sometimes transparent, always unsettling to watch. These three powers had carved up the galaxy between them over the past 1,000 years. They had crushed upstart species, absorbed useful technologies, and maintained what they called the galactic peace. Now they faced something new. Humanity. The Vorthok representative spoke first, its voice a rumble that shook the chamber floor. So these are the humans, discovered faster than light travel only 50 years ago. Before that, they were trapped on a single world, fighting wars with chemical explosives and metal bullets. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Not the warm laughter of friends sharing a joke, but the cold amusement of predators examining prey. The sound echoed off the walls and seemed to go on forever. The Nexari representative's mathematical mind calculated probabilities. Their technology is primitive. Chemical rockets, nuclear fission, electromagnetic communications. They are perhaps 500 years behind galactic standard. Their ships are tiny, their weapons crude, their understanding of physics limited. More laughter. Ambassador Deho listened patiently, his expression never changing. Sunmi's fingers moved across her tablet, recording everything. Both humans had expected this reception. The Phantom Syndicate's representative phased into solidity long enough to speak. They call themselves the dominant species of their world, yet they still fight among themselves. They have never faced a truly superior civilization. They know nothing of real power. The chamber erupted in what could only be described as cosmic contempt. Beings who had conquered star systems found the idea of humanity's independence amusing. They had dealt with thousands of species over the millennia, and the pattern was always the same. The newcomers would bluster and threaten, and submit when faced with superior force. Ambassador Deho finally stepped forward, his voice carried clearly through the vast chamber, aided by the translator devices that allowed all species to communicate. Honored representatives, humanity comes before this council, seeking peaceful relations. We offer trade, cultural exchange, and mutual cooperation. We have much to learn from your civilizations, and perhaps something to offer in return. The Vorthok representative's laugh was like a landslide. Offer? What could you possibly offer us? Your entire species has existed for less time than some of our individual members have lived. You have nothing we need or want. Deho continued calmly. We offer our perspective as newcomers to the galactic community. Fresh eyes often see solutions that experience might miss. We offer our determination, our curiosity, and our willingness to work toward a better future for all species. The Nexari representative's crystalline form pulsed with what might have been amusement. Determination? Curiosity? These are not resources. These are not technologies. These are not useful. You speak of things that have no value in the galactic economy. The Phantom Syndicate's representative flickered between dimensions as it spoke. Your species shows promise, but you are children playing with toys you barely understand. You need guidance. You need protection. You need to accept your place in the established order. The chamber fell silent as the three great powers conferred among themselves. Their communication methods were beyond human understanding, but the result was clear when they turned back to the human delegation. The Vorthok representative made the first offer. The Empire will extend its protection to your species. You will surrender your military forces, accept our governors on your worlds, contribute 20% of your annual production to the Imperial Treasury. In return, you will be safe from external threats. The Nexari Collective's offer came next. Submit to technological integration. Your species will be improved, your inefficiencies corrected, your primitive instincts suppressed. You will become useful members of the collective, though you will no longer be exactly human. The Phantom Syndicate's proposal was the most chilling. Transcendence awaits those ready to abandon physical form. Your consciousness will be preserved, enhanced, and made eternal. Your bodies are merely temporary vessels that hold you back from true evolution. Ambassador Deho listened to each offer with the same patient expression. When they finished, he turned to Sunmi, who nodded slightly. The communication from Earth was clear. We thank you for your generous offers, Deho said. However, humanity must respectfully decline, choose to remain independent, to chart our own course among the stars, and to meet other species as equals rather than as subjects. The silence that followed was deafening. No species had ever declined all three offers. The great powers had never encountered such stubborn independence from a primitive civilization. The Vorthok representative's voice turned cold. You do not understand. These were not requests. These were not negotiations. These were statements. A fact about your future. You will choose one of these paths, or a path will be chosen for you. The Nexari Collective's mathematical mind calculated new probabilities. Your refusal indicates poor judgment. Perhaps your species lacks the intelligence necessary for independent existence. Corrective action may be required. The Phantom Syndicate's representative solidified fully, its energy form taking on a threatening aspect. The galaxy is not a safe place for the unprepared. Species that refuse guidance often find themselves extinct. Ambassador Deho's expression never changed. We understand the risks. We accept the consequences of our choice. Humanity will remain free. The chamber erupted in what could only be described as cosmic outrage. These humans dared to defy the established order. They refused the wisdom of their betters. They chose independence over security. The Vorthok representative rose from its throne. You have 30 standard galactic days to reconsider. If you maintain this foolish position, we will be forced to take corrective action. Your species will be brought into the galactic community whether you wish it or not. As the session ended, the alien representatives filed out, their conversations filled with disbelief and contempt. How could such a primitive species be so arrogant? How could they refuse the generous offers of their superiors? Ambassador Deho and Sunmi remained in the chamber until it was empty. Finally, Sunmi spoke quietly. They really have no idea, do they? Deho smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. No, they have no idea at all. Send word to Admiral Jiwoo. Tell her the Council has made their position clear. Humanity's answer remains unchanged. As the two humans left the Great Hall, neither noticed the subtle change in the chamber's lighting. Deep in the shadows, something was already monitoring. Their communications already preparing for what was to come. The 30-day countdown had begun. 3 weeks had passed since the meeting at the Galactic Council. The deadline was approaching fast, and the alien powers had grown tired of waiting. At the edge of human space, something massive was gathering in the darkness between the stars. Admiral Jiwoo stood on the bridge of her flagship, the cruiser Incheon. Through the main view screen, she could see the scattered lights of the human defensive fleet. 30 ships hung in formation, their hulls gleaming under the light of distant stars. Each vessel was built for war, though they looked small compared to what was coming. The admiral was a woman who had spent her entire life preparing for this moment. Her gray hair was pulled back in a practical style, and her uniform bore the marks of someone who had earned every rank through dedication and skill. She had studied every recorded battle in human history, learned from every victory and defeat. Now all that knowledge would be put to the test. Chief Engineer Kyung-soo approached from the technical station. He was a young man with calloused hands and oil stains on his coveralls. His job was to keep the human ships running, and he knew every bolt and wire in the fleet. "Admiral, we are getting some strange readings from the outer system sensors," he reported. "The gravitational detectors are picking up mass signatures that do not match any known objects in this system." Ji-woo nodded. She had been expecting this. "How many ships are we looking at?" Intelligence Officer Hai-jin stepped forward. It was a quiet woman who spent her days listening to alien communications and analyzing enemy movements. Her work had prepared humanity for what was coming. "Based on the signatures, we estimate 200 vessels," she said. "The largest ones are over 10 kilometers long. They're using some kind of advanced propulsion system that bends space around them." That bridge fell silent. Everyone knew what those numbers meant. The human fleet was outnumbered almost 7-1. The enemy ships were much larger than anything humanity had ever built. "Any word from the diplomatic channels?" Ji-woo asked. Hai-jin shook her head. "The aliens have gone completely silent. No communications, no warnings, no demands. They are moving into position for what appears to be a full military assault." Through the darkness of space, the alien fleet advanced with the confidence of predators stalking prey. The Vorthok Empire had contributed 80 ships, each one a masterpiece of reptilian engineering. Their hulls were covered in overlapping armor plates that could deflect energy weapons, and their weapon systems could reduce a planet to ash. The Nexari Collective brought 60 vessels of pure crystal and metal. These ships moved like living things, their surfaces shifting and changing. As they flew, inside each one, thousands of crystalline minds worked together to calculate the perfect attack patterns. The Phantom Syndicate contributed 60 ships that flickered between dimensions. These vessels existed partially in normal space and partially in other realities. They could phase through solid matter and strike from impossible angles. The combined fleet was the largest military force assembled in galactic history. Never before had the three great powers worked together on such a scale. They saw this as a simple police action, a way to bring an upstart species into line without too much trouble. Commander Vorth of the Vorthok Empire led the assault fleet from his flagship. It's a massive dreadnought called the Star Crusher. It was 15 kilometers long and bristled with weapons that could crack moons. Vorth himself was an ancient warrior who had conquered dozens of star systems. To him, this was just another routine operation. "Status report," he growled to his bridge crew. "All ships are in position," reported his tactical officer. "The human fleet consists of 30 vessels, none larger than 2 kilometers. They are using primitive nuclear propulsion and what appears to be kinetic weapons." Vorth's laugh was like grinding stone. "Kinetic weapons? They plan to fight us with metal slugs and explosive charges? This will be over before it begins." Nexari Fleet Commander was a collective intelligence called Unit Prime. It existed as a distributed consciousness across multiple crystal matrices, allowing it to think faster than any single mind. Its calculations showed a 99.7% probability of complete victory within the first hour of combat. "Human military doctrine analysis complete," Unit Prime announced to the fleet. "They rely on massed firepower and coordinated attacks." There. Ships are designed for battles against similar technology levels. They have no experience fighting superior civilizations. The Phantom Syndicate's contribution was led by an entity that called itself the Whisper. It existed between dimensions, appearing as a shifting shadow that hurt to look at directly. The Whisper had fought in wars across multiple realities and had never tasted defeat. "Their weapons cannot touch us when we phase," the Whisper communicated. To the other commanders, "We will strike from the spaces between spaces, and they will fall before they understand what hit them." The three fleet commanders opened a joint communication channel to the human fleet. The message was broadcast on all frequencies, ensuring that every human ship would receive it. This is Commander Vorth of the Vorthok Empire, speaking for the combined forces of the Galactic Council. You are surrounded and outnumbered. Your weapons are inadequate, your ships are primitive, and your position is hopeless. Surrender now, and your species will be treated with mercy. The alien fleet waited for the expected response. Most species, when faced with such overwhelming force, would immediately begin transmitting surrender terms.
Oh.
The mathematics of the situation were simple. Resistance meant extinction, but the response that came from the human fleet was not what they expected. Admiral Jiwoo's voice carried across the void, calm and clear. This is Admiral Jiwoo of the Terran Defense Force. You are trespassing in sovereign human space. I am ordering you to withdraw immediately, or we will be forced to defend ourselves. The alien commanders were stunned. Did these humans not understand the situation? Could they not see that resistance was futile? Commander Vorth tried again. You have 30 ships. We have 200. You have kinetic weapons. We have plasma cannons and matter disruptors. You have no chance of victory. Surrender now and live. Jiwoo's response was immediate. We respectfully decline your offer. If you wish to test human resolve, you are welcome to try. The silence that followed was filled with disbelief. Unit Prime ran the calculations again, certain there must be an error in the translation systems. The whisper phased through several dimensions, looking for hidden human ships that might explain this confidence, but the scans showed nothing. Just 30 human ships, alone against the might of the galaxy. Perhaps they are insane, suggested the Vorthok tactical officer. Perhaps they are hiding something, calculated Unit Prime. Perhaps they simply do not understand, whispered the whisper. Commander Vorth made the decision. All ships advance to engagement range. We will disable their fleet and take prisoners. I want to study these humans more closely. The massive alien fleet began to move forward, their ships spreading out in a perfect attack formation. Weapon systems charged, shields activated, and targeting computers locked onto the human vessels. But as they advanced deeper into human space, long-range sensors began picking up something else. Far out in the outer system, beyond the orbit of the gas giants, something massive was moving. The readings were so large that the sensor operators initially dismissed them as equipment failures. No ship could be that big. No single vessel could mass as much as a small moon. But as the sensors continued to track the approaching object, the truth became impossible to ignore. Commander, the Vorthok sensor operator's voice was tight with confusion. We have a single contact approaching from the outer system. But the mass readings, they cannot be correct. What are you seeing? Vorth demanded. The object mass is approximately 12 million tons. It is 47 kilometers long and 12 kilometers wide. It is moving under its own power. The bridge fell silent. Even the massive star crusher was only 15 kilometers long. What the sensors were showing was impossible. Unit Prime's calculations suddenly became uncertain. Variables that had been fixed were now in flux. The 99.7% probability of victory began to drop as new factors entered the equation. The whisper phased through dimensions, trying to get a better look at the approaching object. What it saw in the spaces between spaces made it retreat quickly. To normal reality? What is that thing? Commander Vorth asked the question that was on every alien mind. The answer came from Admiral Jiwoo, her voice carrying a note of quiet pride. That, gentlemen, is the TDF Sejong the Great. She is a Titan-class warship, and she has been waiting for you. In the depths of space, the Leviathan emerged from the shadow of the gas giant. Its hull was dark metal that seemed to absorb light, and its size dwarfed everything else in the system. This was not just a ship. This was a statement of human will made manifest in steel and determination. The trap was set, and the aliens had walked directly into it. The bridge of the Sejong the Great was a cathedral of war. The command center stretched across 3 levels, with dozens of officers working at stations that controlled systems the aliens had never imagined. The walls were lined with displays, showing every aspect of the massive ship's operations. From the fusion reactors and the engineering, sections to the weapons arrays that ran along the hull, Captain Wujin stood at the center of it all, his hands clasped behind his back as he watched the alien fleet through the main view screen. He was a man in his 50s, with gray hair and the calm bearing of someone who had commanded starships for over 30 years. His uniform was simple and practical, but the crew around him moved with the precision of people who respected their leader. Absolutely. Status report, he said quietly. Minho, the weapons systems coordinator, looked up from his station. He was a young man with sharp eyes and steady hands, trained from childhood to operate the most advanced weapons humanity had ever built. All primary systems online, Captain. Railguns are charged and ready. Missile systems are loaded. To point. Defense networks are active. Sui Young, the chief tactical officer, studied the formation of the alien fleet on her displays. She was a woman who had spent years analyzing alien combat doctrines and developing counter-strategies. Her job was to turn the enemy's strength against them. The alien fleet is spreading into a standard encirclement pattern, she reported. They expect us to try to break through their lines. They have no idea what they are really facing. Jahian. The ship's AI interface specialist monitored the constant stream of data flowing through the ship's computer systems. He was connected to the artificial intelligence that helped run the massive vessel, a partnership between human intuition and machine precision. The AI confirms all systems are optimal, he said. The ship is ready for combat operations. Captain Wujin nodded and opened a communication channel to the alien fleet. His voice carried the authority of someone who commanded a crew of 200,000 people and enough firepower to level continents. This is Captain Wujin of the Terran Defense Force vessel Sejong the Great. You are trespassing in sovereign human space. You have 60 seconds to begin withdrawal, or we will interpret your presence as an act of war. The response came immediately. From Commander Vorth aboard the Star Crusher. The alien's voice carried disbelief and growing anger. What kind of ship is that? Our sensors show it masses more than our entire fleet combined. How did you build something so large? Captain Wujin's smile was cold. You want to know how we built her? We have been preparing for this moment for 3 centuries. Oh, you established your galactic order and grew comfortable with your superiority. We have been engineering for war. The Sejong the Great is not just a ship. She is a mobile fortress, a factory, and a statement of human resolve. The alien commanders quickly conferred among themselves, their communication systems buzzing with urgent discussions. They had never encountered anything like this massive human vessel. Their largest ships looked like escort craft next to the Sejong the Great. Unit Prime of the Nexari Collective ran rapid calculations. The mass distribution suggests advanced materials we do not recognize. The power signatures indicate fusion reactors far beyond our technology. The weapon systems show energy levels that should be impossible to control. The whisper of the Phantom. Syndicate tried to phase through dimensions to get a better look at the human ship, but something was blocking its ability to shift between realities. There are fields around that vessel that interfere with dimensional manipulation. They have technology that can affect the spaces between spaces, Commander. Vorth's tactical officer studied the sensor readings with growing alarm. Sir, the hull composition appears to be compressed matter held together by controlled gravitational fields. They are using artificial gravity as a structural element. The engineering required for such construction is beyond our understanding. Expired, and the alien fleet had not moved. They remained in their attack formation, weapons charged, but hesitant to begin an assault against something they did not understand. Captain Wujin's voice came across the communication channels again, this time with a note of finality. Your time is up. You have chosen to remain in human space, despite our warnings. We will now demonstrate why this was a poor decision. Sejong the Great began to turn, its massive bulk moving with surprising grace for something so large. Ship's hull was covered with weapon ports that had been invisible until now, hidden behind armored plates that slid aside to reveal the instruments of war within. All stations, prepare for combat, Captain Wujin ordered. Show them what human engineering can accomplish. The first weapons to emerge were the railguns. These were not the simple magnetic launchers that other species used, but massive constructions that ran nearly the entire length of the ship. Each railgun was over 40 kilometers long, designed to accelerate projectiles to incredible speeds using electromagnetic fields. It's powered by the ship's fusion reactors. Minho's hands moved across his controls with practiced precision. Primary. Railguns are ready to fire. We have a clear shot at the enemy flagship. But Captain Wu Jin was not ready to begin the battle just yet. He had something else to show the aliens first. Deploy the fighter screen, he ordered. What happened next defied every assumption the aliens had about human technology. The Sejong the Great began to release smaller craft from launch bays hidden throughout its hull. But these were not traditional fighters piloted by human crews. These were drones, thousands of them, each one controlled by sophisticated artificial intelligence systems. The drones poured out of the massive ship like a swarm of metallic insects. Each one was the size of a small fighter, equipped with its own fusion reactor and weapon systems. They moved in perfect coordination, forming complex patterns that the aliens had never seen before. Squadron. Leader Sung-ho coordinated the drone swarms from his position in the ship's command center. He was a pilot who had transitioned from flying fighters to controlling entire squadrons of automated craft. His job was to turn the drones into a unified weapon that could strike from multiple angles simultaneously. Drone deployment complete, he reported. We have 5,000 units in space and ready for combat operations. The alien fleet watched in growing horror as the human ship continued to reveal its capabilities. The drones were not operating on radio frequencies that could be jammed. Instead, they were using quantum entanglement communication, making their coordination network impossible to disrupt. Commander Vorth finally found his voice. How many weapons does that thing carry?
Captain.
Wu Jin's response was matter of fact. The Sejong the Great carries 48 primary railguns, 300 secondary weapon systems, 12,000 missiles of various types, the drone complement you just observed. But her most important weapon is not listed in any technical manual. What weapon is that? The whisper asked, its voice carrying a note of genuine fear. The determination of the human species to remain free, Captain Wu Jin replied. We built this ship because we knew that one day someone would come to take our freedom from us. We prepared for this moment while you grew comfortable with your power. The alien fleet began to spread out further, trying to present a more difficult target. But the Sejong the Great was not just a single ship. It was a mobile civilization containing manufacturing facilities, research laboratories, and everything needed to sustain a population during long voyages between the stars. Su Young studied the alien movements on her tactical display. They are trying to surround us and attack from multiple directions. They still think this is a conventional battle. Captain Wu Jin nodded. Then it is time to show them how wrong they are. All weapons, prepare to fire on my command. The massive ship's weapons systems came online with a hum that could be felt through the deck plates. The railguns charged with electrical energy that made the air itself crackle. The missile systems armed their warheads. The drones arranged themselves in attack formations. But the most terrifying weapon was still hidden. Deep in the ship's core, gravitational manipulation systems prepared to demonstrate humanity's mastery over the fundamental forces of the universe. Captain Minho reported, all weapons are ready. We await your orders. The alien fleet was now fully deployed, their ships spread across millions of kilometers of space. They had the human vessels surrounded, their weapons trained on the massive target. They still believed that numbers would win the day, Commander. Vorth opened a final communication channel. Last chance, humans. Surrender now, and you will be treated with honor. Continue this resistance, and you will face the combined might of the galaxy. Captain Wu Jin's response was simple and final. We are humanity. We do not surrender. We do not submit. We do not yield. If you want to test our resolve, then come and try. The silence that followed was broken only by the hum of charging weapons and the quiet. Conversations of crew members preparing for battle. The Sejong, the Great, hung in space like a metal mountain, surrounded by its cloud of drones. Ready to demonstrate that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology, but their refusal to accept defeat. The moment of truth had arrived. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you cornered the human race. The first shot fired in the battle came not from the massive alien fleet, but from a single railgun aboard the Sagong the Great. Master Gunner Zhang Heian had spent 15 years learning to operate the ship's primary weapons. His hands moved across the controls with the precision of a surgeon, calculating trajectory, power levels, and timing. "Firing Railgun 7, he announced calmly. The electromagnetic launcher accelerated a tungsten projectile to 15% of light speed. The shot crossed the space between the human ship and the alien fleet in less than 3 seconds. There was no flash of energy, no dramatic explosion, just a simple piece of metal moving faster than anything the aliens had ever encountered. The projectile struck the Orthoc heavy cruiser Bonecrusher amidships. The alien shields, designed to deflect plasma bolts and energy beams, offered no resistance to a solid object traveling at relativistic speeds. The tungsten slug punched through the ship's hull like it was made of paper, creating a hole 3 meters wide that went completely through the vessel. The Bonecrusher broke apart in a shower of metal and atmosphere, its crew of 8,000. Reptilian warriors died before they understood what had hit them. The alien fleet erupted in confusion. Commander Vorth's voice crackled across the communication channels. What kind of weapon was that? Our shields did not even register an impact. Captain Wujin's response was educational. Kinetic energy, Commander. Very old concept, but we have made some improvements. That projectile carried the energy equivalent of a small nuclear weapon, focused into a very small area. Fleet immediately began evasive maneuvers, but the Sajong the Great was already firing again. Dong Heian and his crew operated 12 railguns simultaneously, sending tungsten projectiles, screaming across space at targets that could not dodge fast enough. The Nexari? Crystalline Cruiser thought Matrix tried to phase its shields out of normal space, but solid matter traveling at near light speed existed in all dimensions simultaneously. The projectile shattered the crystal ship's core, sending rainbow fragments spinning into the void. The Phantom Syndicate vessel Whisper of Death attempted to shift between dimensions, but found its ability to phase blocked by some kind of interference field generated by the human ship. The tungsten slug caught it while it was half materialized, destroying both its physical form and its dimensional anchor. Within the first minute of combat, the Sajong the Great had destroyed 6 alien ships without taking a single hit in return. But the massive human vessel was more than just a gun platform. As the alien fleet spread out to avoid the devastating railgun fire, Captain Wuzhen ordered the next phase of the attack. "Release the swarm," he commanded. Squadron Leader Sunho coordinated the attack from his station in the ship's combat center. He had trained for years to control large numbers of drone fighters simultaneously. Using a neural interface that connected his mind directly to the artificial intelligence systems, "Swarm deployment initiated," he reported. 5,000 drones, engaging enemy targets. The AI-controlled fighters poured away from the Sajong the Great like a cloud of angry metal wasps. Each drone was equipped with fusion reactors, particle beam weapons, and enough artificial intelligence to make tactical decisions in real time. They moved in coordinated groups, supporting each other and adapting to enemy responses. The alien fleet tried to engage the drones with their point defense systems, but quickly discovered that human tactics were unlike anything they had encountered. The drones did not attack in straight lines or predictable patterns. Instead, they swarmed around enemy ships like predators, striking weak points and retreating before the aliens could respond. Commander Borth watched in horror as his fleet began to take serious damage. How are they controlling so many fighters? We cannot jam their communications. The answer came from Unit Prime of the Nexari Collective, its mathematical mind struggling to understand what it was observing. They are not using electromagnetic communications. The drones appear to be connected through quantum entanglement networks. Each fighter is linked to the others instantaneously, regardless of distance. The Whisper of the Phantom Syndicate tried to phase through dimensions to attack the drone swarms from an unexpected angle, but found that the human fighters could somehow track its movement between realities. They have technology that can detect dimensional shifts. Our primary advantage has been neutralized. As the battle continued, Alien commanders began to realize they were facing something completely outside their experience. The humans were not fighting according to any known tactical doctrine. They combined ancient concepts like kinetic weapons with advanced technology in ways that made no logical sense. Damage Control Coordinator the Jin monitored the Sejong the Great's systems. From her station deep in the ship's core, she was responsible for keeping the massive vessel operational during combat, coordinating repair teams and managing emergency systems. Minor damage to Sections 7 and 12, she reported. Hull breaches sealed. All primary systems remain operational. Alien fleet had managed to score a few hits on the human ship, but their energy weapons barely scratched the compressed matter hull. The Sejong the Great was built to survive anything the galaxy could throw at it. Captain Wu Zhen studied the tactical display, watching as his ship and its drones systematically dismantled the alien fleet. But he was not satisfied with simply winning the battle. He wanted to send a message that would be remembered for generations. "Prepare the gravity lance," he ordered quietly. The command sent a chill through the bridge crew. Even they had never seen the ship's most devastating weapon used in actual combat. The gravity lance was humanity's masterpiece of applied physics, a weapon that could manipulate the fundamental structure of space and time. Chief, Science Officer Haiyan Wu began the charging sequence from his station. He was one of only 12 people in the galaxy who understood how the weapon worked, and one of only 3 who could operate it safely. "Gravitational field generators coming online," he reported. "Target selection required." Captain Wu Jin pointed to the alien flagship on the main display, the Star Crusher. "Show them what happens when you challenge humanity." Gravity lance did not fire in any conventional sense. Instead, it created a localized distortion in space-time around the target vessel. The effect was invisible to the naked eye, but the results were immediate and terrifying. The Star Crusher. All 15 kilometers of reptilian engineering simply began to come apart. Not from explosions or energy beams, but from gravitational forces that pulled the ship in different directions simultaneously. Hull plates separated, internal structures twisted, and the crew was torn apart by tidal forces they could not understand or resist. Commander Worth's final transmission was a scream of rage and disbelief before his flagship ceased to exist. The remaining alien ships watched in absolute horror as their most powerful vessel was destroyed by a weapon they could not even comprehend. Some tried to flee immediately, but found their escape routes blocked by drone squadrons. Others attempted to surrender, broadcasting frantic messages of submission. But Captain Wu Jin was not finished demonstrating human capabilities. The gravity lance fired again, targeting a Nexary battlecruiser. The crystalline vessel shattered into a million pieces as gravitational waves tore it apart at the molecular level. A third shot destroyed a Phantom Syndicate dreadnought, its dimensional phase technology useless against a weapon that affected all realities simultaneously. The alien fleet, which had begun the battle with supreme confidence, was now in full retreat. Of the 200 ships that had arrived to subjugate humanity, fewer than 50 remained operational. The survivors fled in panic, their formations broken, their commanders dead or incapacitated. Squadron leaders Sung Ho's drones harried the retreating vessels, assuring they understood that humanity could pursue them anywhere they tried to hide. The message was clear. This was not just a victory, but a demonstration of overwhelming superiority. As the last alien ships jumped to faster-than-light speed and fled human space, and strange silence fell over the battlefield. The Sejong, the Great, hung motionless among the debris of alien ambition, its weapons powered down, its mission complete. Captain Wu Zhen opened a communication channel to the few alien vessels still within sensor range. His voice carried across the void with quiet authority. To any survivors who can hear this transmission, you came here to force humanity into submission. If you believed your technology was superior, your numbers overwhelming, your victory certain, you were wrong on all counts. He paused, letting his words sink in before continuing. Return to your governments. Tell them what you have witnessed here today. Inform them that humanity will not be conquered, will not be enslaved, and will not be intimidated. We have prepared for this moment for 3 centuries, and we are ready for whatever comes next. The communication ended. leaving only the soft hum of the ship's engines and the quiet conversations of crew members securing from battle stations. The first test of human military might was over. The galaxy would never be the same. The battlefield had become a graveyard of shattered dreams and broken metal. Pieces of alien warships drifted through space like metallic snow, their once proud hulls now nothing more than debris. The silence was profound and terrible, broken only by the distant hum of the Sa-Jong, the Great's engines as it moved slowly through the wreckage. Captain Wu Jin stood at the main view screen, his hands clasped behind his back as he surveyed the destruction. Around him, his crew worked quietly at their stations, monitoring the few alien ships that remained. The battle was over, but the war for humanity's future was just beginning. Communications officer Sang Min sat at his station, listening to the frantic transmissions from the surviving alien vessels. He was a young man with excellent hearing and a gift for languages, trained to intercept and decode enemy communications. What he heard in those desperate alien voices told the story of a fleet in complete collapse. "Captain, I am picking up scattered transmissions from the remaining enemy ships," he reported. "Most are calling for immediate retreat. Some are requesting permission to surrender. A few are simply screaming." The alien fleet that had arrived with such confidence was now scattered across the star system. Ships that had once moved in perfect formation now fled in random directions, their commanders dead or too shocked to give coherent orders. The survivors were learning what it meant to face an enemy that fought by completely different rules. Aboard the Nexari vessel Crystal Mind, Unit 7, struggled to process what had happened to its fleet. The mathematical certainty that had guided the collective for thousands of years had been shattered in a single afternoon. Its calculations showed that victory had been 99.7% certain, yet here it was, watching its allies burn in the cold vacuum of space. "Request immediate evacuation," Unit 7 transmitted to any ship that would listen. "Human weapon systems beyond current understanding. Tactical doctrine obsolete. Retreat advised." The Phantom Syndicate ship Phase Walker flickered between dimensions as its commander tried to understand how the humans had detected and targeted vessels that existed partially outside normal space. The entity known as Echo Prime had fought in wars across multiple realities, but had never encountered weapons that could affect all dimensions simultaneously. "They see us wherever we go," Echo Prime whispered to its crew. "The spaces between spaces offer no protection. How is this possible?" Chief Tactical Officer Su Young studied the movements of the surviving alien ships on her display. She had spent years developing strategies for this moment, and everything was proceeding according to plan. The aliens were behaving exactly as human psychologists had predicted they would when faced with overwhelming force. "The enemy fleet is fragmenting," she reported to Captain Wu Jin. "Individual ships are breaking formation and attempting to escape the system. They have lost all cohesion as a fighting force." But Captain Wu Jin was not ready to let the aliens leave just yet. He had one more demonstration to give, one final lesson that would ensure the message reached every corner of the galaxy. "Target the Vorthok battlecruiser Iron Fang," he ordered. "Prepare the gravity lance for precision fire." Gravitational weapons specialist Yunji looked up from her station with surprise. She was one of the few people aboard who truly understood the terrible power of the weapon she controlled. "Captain, the Iron Fang is already disabled. Its engines are dead and life support is failing." "I know," Captain Wu Jin replied quietly. "This is not about destroying the ship. It's about sending a message." The gravity lance powered up for the 4th time in the battle, but this time the targeting was different. Instead of creating a massive gravitational distortion that would tear the ship apart, Yunji carefully calibrated the weapon to produce a much smaller effect. The gravitational wave struck the Iron Fang with surgical precision, affecting only the ship's main communication array. The massive antenna that allowed the vessel to communicate across interstellar distances simply ceased to exist, erased from reality by forces that bent space itself. The message was clear. Humanity could destroy what it chose to destroy, when it chose to destroy it. The aliens were alive only because the humans allowed them to live. Open a channel to all remaining alien vessels, Captain Wujin ordered. Songmin's fingers moved across his controls, establishing communication links with every surviving ship in the system. His transmission would reach not just the local vessels, but would be relayed across the galaxy by the aliens' own communication networks. "This is Captain Wujin of the Terran Defense Force," he began, his voice carrying across the void to terrified alien crews. "The engagement is now concluded. I came here to force humanity into submission. You believed your numbers would overwhelm us, your technology would overpower us, and your experience would guide you to victory." He paused, letting his words sink in before continuing. "Wow. You were mistaken on every point. We have spent 3 centuries preparing for this day. While you grew comfortable with your dominance, we studied your weaknesses. While you assumed your superiority, we developed new ways of war." The alien crews listened in stunned silence. Some were too shocked to respond, others too afraid. A few tried to jam the transmission but found their communication systems no longer responding to their commands. "The vessels you see floating in space around you represent the finest military forces your civilizations could produce. They are destroyed not because we hate you, but because you would not listen to reason. You demanded our submission, and we have given you our answer." Captain Wujin gestured to Su-young, who activated a tactical display that showed the full scope of the battle. Images were transmitted to every alien ship, ensuring they could see exactly what had happened to their fleet. 152 of your ships have been destroyed. 48 remained operational, but damaged. You began this engagement with overwhelming numerical superiority and advanced technology. You are ending it as refugees in your own space. Captain's voice took on a note of finality. "You have 1 hour to collect your wounded and depart human space. Any vessel that remains in our territory after that time will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly." The transmission ended, leaving the alien survivors alone with their shock and terror. Slowly, painfully, the remaining ships began to move toward the outer edge of the system. Some stopped to pick up escape pods from destroyed vessels. Others simply fled as fast as their damaged engines could carry them. Aboard the Sejong the Great, the crew watched the alien retreat with quiet satisfaction. They had trained for this moment their entire lives, and they had performed their duties with the precision and dedication that humanity demanded. Damage. Control Coordinator Thajin submitted her final report to the captain. "All systems nominal. Minor hull damage in sections 7 through 12 has been repaired. Weapon systems are ready for immediate redeployment if needed." Chief Science Officer Hyunwoo powered down the gravity lance and secured the exotic matter containment systems. Gravitational weapons offline and safe. No anomalous readings detected. The space-time continuum remains stable. Squadron Leader Song-ho recalled his drone swarms, watching as thousands of AI-controlled fighters returned to their launch bays. All drones recovered. Total losses 0. The swarm is ready for immediate redeployment. Master Gunner Dong Haein checked the status of the ship's railguns and found them ready for action. Primary weapon systems nominal. Ammunition stores remain at 87% capacity. As the last alien ship disappeared into faster-than-light travel, Captain Wujin allowed himself a small smile. The first test of human military capability was complete, and the results exceeded even the most optimistic projections. "Communications, send a message to Admiral Ji Woo," he ordered. "Tell her the demonstration was successful. The galaxy now understands that humanity cannot be conquered." Sangmin's fingers moved across his controls, transmitting the message to the smaller human fleet that had served as bait for the alien trap. But within minutes, confirmation came back from Admiral Ji Woo and her ships. "Message received and understood." "Well done, Sejong. The politicians can take over from here." The great ship began its slow journey back toward Earth, its mission complete. Behind it, the debris field served as a monument to the day humanity announced its presence to the galaxy, not as supplicants or subjects, but as equals who would defend their freedom with whatever force was necessary. The silence that had fallen over the battlefield was not the silence of death. The galaxy had learned to listen when humanity spoke, 6 months had passed since the battle at the edge of human space, and the Great Hall of the Galactic Council looked very different. The same massive columns still rose to support the star-touched ceiling, but the atmosphere had changed completely. Where once alien representatives had lounged in comfortable arrogance, they now sat with careful attention. The chamber that had once buzzed with dismissive chatter was now filled with respectful silence. Ambassador Deho entered the hall with the same calm dignity he had shown during his first visit, but this time his reception was completely different. Alien representatives who had barely acknowledged his presence before now stood as he passed. Some bowed, others offered formal salutes, and a few simply watched him with the kind of respect reserved for those who had proven their strength beyond. All doubt behind him walked Sunmi, her diplomatic credentials now carrying weight that extended far beyond anything written on paper. She had become humanity's chief diplomatic communications officer, responsible for managing the flood of requests, offers, and pleas that had poured in from across the galaxy since news of the battle had spread. Joining them for this session was Ba, a stern woman in her 40s who served as humanity's new military attaché. Her uniform bore the insignia of the Terran Defense Force, and her presence served as a quiet reminder of what had happened to those who had underestimated human resolve. The fourth member of the human delegation was Jinnah, a trade negotiation specialist who carried detailed proposals for economic cooperation. Her briefcase contained offers that would have been laughed at 6 months ago, but were now eagerly anticipated by civilizations that had learned the value of human friendship. The Vorthok representative was not the same massive creature who had dismissed humanity with such contempt that being had died aboard the Star Crusher when Captain Jin's gravity lance had torn the flagship apart. The new Vorthok delegate was smaller, younger, and spoke with the careful precision of someone who understood that words had consequences. The Vorthok Empire wishes to express its profound regret for the misunderstanding that occurred 6 months ago, the reptilian being said, its voice carrying none of the arrogance that had characterized its predecessor. We now understand that humanity deserves the full respect due to a sovereign galactic power. The Nexori Collective had also changed its approach completely. Uniprime, the mathematical intelligence that had calculated humanity's defeat with such certainty, had been dissolved in disgrace. The new representative called itself Unit Alpha, and its crystal matrix flickered with nervous energy as it spoke. The collective has completed its analysis of human technological capabilities, Unit Alpha announced. We have determined that our previous calculations contain significant errors. We request permission to begin technological exchange programs with human scientists. The Phantom Syndicate's new representative was an entity called the Harmony, and it appeared far more solid than its predecessor. The Whisper had been destroyed along with its ship when it had tried to phase through dimensions to attack the Sajong the Great. The Harmony spoke with the humility of a species that had learned its limitations. The Syndicate acknowledges that human understanding of dimensional physics exceeds our own, the Harmony admitted. We wish to learn how your weapons can affect multiple realities simultaneously. Ambassador Deho listened to each statement with the same patient attention he had always shown, but now his responses carried weight that extended across the galaxy. Every word would be analyzed, translated, and transmitted to the farthest reaches of known space. Humanity appreciates the changed tone of these proceedings, he said calmly. We have always sought peaceful relations with other species. The recent unfortunate events could have been avoided if our initial offers of cooperation had been taken seriously. The chamber fell silent as the aliens absorbed this gentle rebuke. They all remembered how they had laughed at human offers of partnership, how they had dismissed human capabilities, how they had assumed that force would solve the problem of an independent species. Bomb stepped forward to address the military questions that had dominated galactic discussion for months. Intelligence services across the galaxy had been desperately trying to understand how humanity had achieved such devastating military superiority. Many of you have asked about our defensive capabilities, she said, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had helped plan the battle that changed everything. I am authorized to provide some clarification on this matter. The entire chamber leaned forward. Every alien representative understood that what they were about to hear would determine the future balance of power in the galaxy. The vessel your fleets encountered was the TDF Sejong the Great, one of 7 Titan-class warships currently in service with the Terran Defense Force, BRM continued. 3 additional units are under construction, and we have received authorization to build 12 more if the galactic security situation requires it. The silence that followed was absolute. The mathematics were terrifying and inescapable. A single human warship had destroyed 150 alien vessels. 10 such ships could challenge every military force in the galaxy simultaneously. The Vorthok representative's voice was barely a whisper. 7 ships like that one already exist? Bjorn nodded. The Sejong the Great was our oldest Titan-class vessel, completed over 50 years ago. The newer ships incorporate technological advances that make them significantly more capable. Took over the discussion, shifting focus from military matters to economic cooperation. She opened her briefcase and distributed data tablets containing detailed trade proposals that represented a complete reversal of the relationships the aliens had originally envisioned. Humanity is prepared to offer advanced gravitational manipulation technology in exchange for access to galactic trade networks, she announced. We are also willing to share our expertise in artificial intelligence, quantum communications, and dimensional physics. The offers were generous, far more so than anyone had expected. The aliens had assumed that humanity would use its newfound position to demand tribute and submission. Instead, the humans were offering partnership and mutual benefit. The Nexari representative's crystal matrix pulsed with excitement. You would share your gravitational technology? The principles behind your gravity lance weapons? Civilian applications only? Chinook clarified. Gravitational field generators for construction. Projects, space elevators, artificial gravity systems for space stations. The military applications will remain under human control. The negotiations that followed were unlike anything the Galactic Council had ever seen. Instead of the usual pattern of stronger species dominating weaker ones, the humans offered genuine cooperation. They shared some technologies freely while keeping others as leverage for future negotiations. Ambassador Tejo concluded the session with a statement that would be remembered for generations. Humanity does not seek to dominate the galaxy. We seek to join it as equals, to contribute our knowledge and perspective to the common good. But we will never again tolerate attempts to subjugate or control us. As the session ended, alien representatives filed out of the chamber, carrying with them a new understanding of humanity's place in the galactic order. The species they had dismissed as primitive newcomers were now the most powerful military force in known space. But more importantly, they had proven that power could be wielded with wisdom and restraint. 3 months later, Captain Wu Zhen stood in his ready room aboard the Sejong the Great, looking out at the stars through a massive viewport. The ship was patrolling the borders of human space, not as a weapon of conquest, but as a guardian of peace. The captain had received word that morning of another. The Centauri Republic had formally requested human mediation. In a border dispute with the Andromedan Federation, it was the 15th such request since the battle. Species across the galaxy discovered that humans could be trusted to find fair solutions to complex problems. A soft chime indicated an incoming message. Communications Officer Sangman's voice came through the ship's intercom system. Captain, we are receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. They are formally requesting human participation in the intergalactic peacekeeping force. Wu Jin smiled. 6 months ago, the aliens had tried to force humanity into submission. Now they were asking for help maintaining order across the galaxy. The transformation was complete. Send our acceptance, he ordered. Tell them humanity is honored to serve the cause of galactic peace. The great ship continued its patrol, moving slowly between the stars that had once seemed so distant and hostile. Humanity had taken its place among the powers of the galaxy not through conquest or domination, but through strength tempered by wisdom. The age of human expansion had begun, and the galaxy was a better place for it. In ready rooms and command centers across the fleet, human officers looked out at the stars and saw not enemies to be defeated, but neighbors to be protected. The silence that had once swept across the stars in fear had been replaced by the quiet confidence of a species that had proven itself worthy of respect. Humanity had arrived among the stars, and the galaxy would never be the same.